When you think of absolutely cracked vehicles and busted low tier vehicles, you probably think of things like the Panzer 5-4, not the Type 64, and this is of course the tier 6 light tank within World of Tanks console, and we're going to showcase it in today's video mainly because it got a new skin, and I actually think this skin is one of the nicest skins that Wargaming have made, and it is a very simple skin. I mean, it is primarily just the tank as it usually is, but with some gold markings. It's got a nice camo on it, it's got a good emblem, it looks really fantastic. But the key thing about this tank is not the camo, it's how good it is, and we're playing in a tier 7 game here, I believe, and we're going to see how the Type 64 can perform, because remember, it's supposedly a light tank and you get unbelievable view range to concealment, which allows you to not only get spotting damage but also come out with good damage as well. But it's one of those that you have to fire a bit of premium to make this tank work. So although it's a premium tank in itself, it's not a very expensive one, of course, light tanks being the cheapest premiums in the game. But I think it will set you back about 2,000 gold, so it's fairly cheap, especially if you find it on offer. You can pick it up for extremely cheap after them. But you can see me here playing the light tank bush in the center, and then maybe we'll push over to the enemy's base later on. But we're just trying to snipe at this AMX 1375. Quite a few failed attempts there, and you can't have too many failed attempts within one battle in this thing because you don't get that much ammo, because a balancing feature in Wargaming's eyes is that you don't have enough ammo to carry in the game. So yeah, it's in this weird period where Wargaming decided that apparently balancing tanks depended on, you know, if you were able to actually deal the damage, not the fact that the tank is just blatantly much better than a lot of its other tanks at the tier. And yeah, it kind of sucks that you are limited by the ammunition in a vehicle as to how it doesn't perform as well as maybe you'd hope. But either way, this one being quite good, we've picked up 1,500 combined damage, and in this game I'm primarily a lower tier vehicle, so I don't want to be getting spotted. You don't have a lot of hit points, 580, but one thing that you do have with this vehicle is the ability to spot and also farm damage, because this damage per minute of the vehicle makes this thing in from one of the okay vehicles at the tier that is, you know, a very good scout into definitely one of the best scouts in the game. Now, I'm an absolute idiot here, just trying to fire on the move, and then I decide, you know what, stop being an idiot, let's actually free aim instead of auto aiming, and then of course we hit him. But either way, at the moment, I'm very scared of the field. I have no idea what's back there, and so I break contact with the opponent and then try and get back into the bush mechanics, whereby, you know, you can sit in the bushes and remain undetected against the fat, slow heavies like the Churchill 7, and we actually shut him down. So very nice there. Of course, managing to do way above the hit points of the vehicle. You're seeing me now getting to the bush, or at least have the bush behind or in front of me, and then hopefully we'll be able to get some free shells of damage off into these opponents. Now we're spotting the Tiger P, and the Tiger P, although pretty bad on its usually it's pretty bad. When you're playing up against a tank that doesn't have the highest of pen, it's a lot easier for you to bounce a few rounds off of it. And yeah, especially in tier 8 games in this thing, I mean, try penning some of the heavies like the VKP. I mean, it's just not possible, and I'm not even entirely sure if this isn't a preferential. I don't think it is, but yeah, I mean, it's not very fun when you are in the bottom tier games and when you're getting pumped. And you see in the Tiger P here, easily able to track him, keep him locked down, and then remove the rest of his hit points. Now I'm trying to go after this T25AT, but we're not able to hit him very easily. And in fact we're bouncing, but it's probably because we're hitting the mantler as opposed to the easy side armor. But at this point I kind of forgot, you know, this tank doesn't have that many rounds, so don't go wasting them on YOLO shells. Now, it's not the worst thing. You can probably, maximum amount of damage you can pick up about 4,000, but remember, that's if you do not hit any vehicle in the game, or don't miss any vehicle, or don't even not pen every vehicle in the game. So essentially, your best way of doing that is to load premium and then nothing else, and then of course hope that you're hitting with all of the abilities to increase your accuracy. Now I'm a little bit scared here. I'm thinking, you know what, I'll be the scout for the team. I'm going to do what my role actually is, and hopefully we'll be able to get some assistance. Didn't want to poke up too much there, and in fact we're just going for some probably bad shells here. I mean, there's not much point in trying to poke and shoot at some of these, so yeah, maybe we should have saved those rounds for if we wanted to go in later, but you know, that's not the point of this video. The point is to show, you know, that this tank, even in games where maybe you're not particularly too enthralled with how maybe you performed, you can still have a disgusting game. And I mean, we've had what, 4,000 combined damage within this one, which is brilliant for any tier 6 vehicle, and I'm sure you'd be very happy with the result as it is. But of course we want to win. We don't want to just get a normal well, a damage game where, yeah, you've done really well, but you end up back in the garage with a loss. I want to win this game. And it's not a guarantee, because there are, of course, a lot of tier 7s in the game. And I mean, the KV3 is not a vehicle that you want to see, because remember, we don't have that many rounds. I'm not going to waste them on the KV3. I'm just going to keep him spotted, and hopefully, just hopefully, our artillery pieces will be able to deal with him, or maybe someone else can hit him, or just something needs to happen to him, because I don't really want to waste my shell, especially when I may need them up in an engagement later on. Now, I'm not going to poke this guy anymore, and in fact we decide maybe it is worth going for this eagle. I try and get him. We only land 1 shell out of 2. Not particularly great, but yeah, hopefully we can keep that up. But there is a tank destroyer on the enemy team, I believe the T25/2, not particularly the most horrible tank to come up against, I'll be honest, which means that, yeah, it should be pretty easy, fairly straightforward, but remember, we're running out of rounds now, only 4 rounds left, and what do you do when you start running out of rounds in World of Tanks? It's probably not that often that that happens. With the amount of vehicles in the game that have decent amounts of ammunition, as it probably shouldn't be the case that you ever really run out of ammunition unless you've just been spraying it up against a wall. But, you know, we get hit there by the T25/2, that's a third, if not maybe more, of our hit points gone within 1 shell, and you'll notice that with this vehicle that you just lose your hit points super quick. I mean, tanks like the IS or things like that will rinse your hit points and just remove them entirely. So you have to be very, very mindful of the tier 7 and tier 8 Soviet vehicles. Anything with high alpha will genuinely ruin your day, and unfortunately we do manage to miss that final shell on the T25/2, and I'm thinking, how can I come away with a win here, or how can I best support the team? And I guess at this point I'm thinking maybe I can just try and distract the Eagle 7. If I get taken out, it's not too much of a problem. I'm going to try and divert his attention. Maybe he'll think I'm over here. Maybe he'll try and go for me. Maybe he'll kind of focus on me, maybe get distracted. I don't know, but we were hoping to achieve something in that regard. But unfortunately, he's still going for our teammates over there. The M44 on the enemy team actually hits the SU-100. The Eagle then actually looks at me, which is nice, but I am relying on my teammates here. And at this point, I'm thinking, yeah, maybe I should just go in, because our teammate there is on very, very low hit points. I mean, 200. And the Eagle 7 is a bit of a rapid firer that can certainly be a pain in the backside, but I'm not sure what to do. I mean, we could go in, but then if I get taken out, and looking at the Minuteman's hit points, I'm thinking, uh-oh, this really isn't good. Like, our team could genuinely lose quite easily. But luckily, the Type 58 on our team is not a complete bot, and he actually goes in, luckily. And of course, we come away with a potential win. I mean, the M44 would have to perform miracles to actually come away with it. But yeah, now I'm deciding, you know what, it's time to go in after the M44. What better way to finish it off than to ram him to death? So yeah, a nice little end to that one. Yeah, really did enjoy actually jumping in the Type 64, and I mean that's one good result. We've got another one coming up, but yeah, nearly 3,000 damage, not quite, 2,163 base experience with over 5,100 combined damage. So really good result in a tier 7 game, remember, and of course a mastery badge. Eye for an eye medal for, of course, simultaneously destroying and being destroyed by a ram. Yeah, nice one. So the next game, a little bit of a quicker one, but it is not the result you want a tier 8 game. So in fact, when we were talking about what tier it actually meets, it does actually go up to tier 8, obviously, hence this replay. But my key thing about showcasing this is not necessarily the tank, but more that you can still really perform in these matchups even when you are bottom tier, and you can still be of an impact even in a light tank, something like this. You know, it's not supposed to be the damage dealer, but you can still be very competitive. Now you're seeing me load premium, of course, because why would I want to bounce in this sort of matchup? You don't get that many free shells in a tier 8 game when you're playing in a tier 6, so we want to get as many as possible at the beginning. Yes, you can say, oh, premium ammunition, blah blah blah, but I mean, in a tier 8 game, it's either you pen or you don't pen, and I'd much rather come away with some damage than having 0 damage at the end of the game. So, especially when you're playing in a light tank like this that has very, very low penetration on its standard rounds, to the point where, like, you just are not going to pen at any tier 8 that you come up against. Now, at this point, I'm thinking, right, it's time to go. I need to do something. I need to be of an impact to the team. So, I push in. We do spot the T69, obviously a bit of speed up lag there, don't quite know what was going on, but yeah, a little bit triggered, I expect, for myself, having had to deal with that. But we do manage to get a really lucky shot on the T54 mod 1 there, which is good, but there is of course a King Tiger coming up from my rear, and now I've realised I'm in a pretty bad spot. Of course, this spot is primarily not brilliant if the enemy team take the eastern side of the map as well as the west, as well as their own spawn. Yeah, it's not going to go very well if that happens, but maybe we can still salvage this game. I mean, it's looking not particularly great. We've got no map control. The friendly team are all congealed into one spot, and I mean, they're not really doing anything, not pushing anywhere, and not taking control. And that's what happens in these tier 8 games when you're not a top tier, is that you do sometimes have to rely on a team, and if they kind of suck, I mean, you can only do so much. But maybe we can farm up some damage, and you're seeing here, really good spot at this point. You know, you can use this hill area, you can come into this dip, you can put this rock to the left here, right in front of us where this IS-2 is, to avoid any shells from maybe the T69, etc. The one kind of negative about this spot is if people do YOLO from E2 and 3, you know, down this hill behind me there, you're going to be able to get removed pretty quickly. So not ideal, but we've done 1,100 damage, 241 assistance, nothing too spectacular. But with this vehicle, I think what I try and always do is try and maximize the damage. I mean, it is a light tank, but a lot of the times when you play light tanks, you know, you get these spamming messages where someone's saying, oh, brilliant, like, I'm going to try and help you out, or you should be spotting, or something like that, like you should be doing so and so, and actually they're the ones at the bottom of the team and they've done absolutely nothing. Yeah, there's so many times where that's been the case. So I rely on both getting myself spotting damage from playing, but also using my own kind of damage as well to come away with a decent result. Now, I decided I'm going to stay here in front of the Jagdpanzer. I was willing to take a shell, and we do actually take one from a vehicle that I'm not entirely enthralled about, which is the Somua, since that could have actually pumped us in 2 shots. So remember, if you do find yourself up against something like a Somua, you are going to get 2 shot, and I mean, tier 7 tank destroyers like the SU-152 will have a little bit of a joyful surprise when they manage to pen you, since you there's no way that they can low roll you, or if they do, it is genuinely like one of the min rolls that they could possibly do in the game. So yeah, just be aware of that. Now we find the King Tiger here. Lovely to find, because now we can farm him up. We set him on fire, easy work. We hit him again, and we hit him again, and he's gone. There we go, 2,400 damage, and there's the game salvage. We're gonna at least go up on our marks of excellence if that's something you wanted to do in this tank. I mean, it's a very easy tank to mark. There's a lot of seal clubbers that jump in this thinking that they're good with 3 marks, and I mean, at the end of the day, when you're playing against people that have barely played the game at tier 6, there's no surprise that it's pretty easy to be able to get the marks. If you've played for a decent amount of time, that is. Obviously, I'm not saying that it's easy to get 3 marks in every single tank, but it's surprisingly easier in these tier 6 vehicles, especially when they're as good as this one is. But that was the whole point. I mean, I wanted to show that this tank is very, very good. It is a solid performer. It has pretty much everything you want from a tier 6 light tank, and in fact it has probably more than you'd want from a tier 6 light tank. But once again, we're starting to run out of rounds, and I mean, you can see here up against the paper T69, we're even bouncing. I mean, granted, we're probably hitting the turret in the non-optimal way, but yeah, I mean, we're not going to be able to win a 1 versus 7 with only 7 rounds. So yeah, I mean, it was a good one. It wasn't amazing, but we played a few games in this thing. I really enjoy it, but it is a bit of a seal clubber, and I almost feel a little bit dirty jumping into it. So yeah, at least you guys get to see what it's like, and of course you could see what the skin was like as well. Hopefully you guys let me know what you think about the Type 64, and we did actually manage to make it on the leaderboard even though we lost, which is always a good result, and you know that you've done a good job for your team, at least in this game. But there you go. Hopefully you join me back in another video, and don't forget you can check out the other skin, the Progetto 65 skin, in the previous video on the channel, and I hope I'll see you there. Goodbye.